So the first time I talked about trading with Tom Sosnoff, probably one of the most prolific traders in the world, he did something that totally shocked me.
If you click it one more time, it'll send the order.
Click it now.
Yep.
Send it. All right.
Bye.
I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, but Tom wasn't looking at charts and he was sending trades through, and this just blew my mind. It's like driving without a windshield. I was like, how do we know where we're going? How do we know what may or may not happen next? I just felt completely blind. So technical analysis is a tool to analyze price charts. It's just charting. It's observing the charts, and the candlesticks on the charts are the price fluctuations of whatever underlying that you're looking at. So that's something when I got into the market, it was always about charts. You had to, know what the charts were doing before you can make an assumption on anything. Usually people use technical analysis to try and derive an assumption or a directional assumption, or what may happen next, or where people may be positioning themselves on the chart. Or some traders may use technical analysis to try and grasp what other traders may be anticipating. Before Tasty, I always had to look at the charts pretty much every second whenever I was putting on trades, getting out of trades, adding to trades. But that was before I was even trading options. So this was really new to me, and I just wanted to understand what was going on. So I put together a roundtable with Tony Batista and Jamal Chandler. Tony Batista is someone who has decades of experience in the industry and has been trading options since pretty much day one. Jamal also has a lot of experience in the market, and he's somebody who actually started off trading stock equities and using technical analysis to base certain decisions off of. So what better two people to bring onto this roundtable and start this discussion? So this is kind of a controversial topic, and I'm glad to have you both here. And Tony, we're gonna start with you. There's different opinions on technical analysis. Some people can trade without even looking at a chart. Some people like to look at charts for different opportunities, and people see value in different ways. But I want to kind of see your take on it. You've been in the market the longest.
Sure.
Why do you think a trader might not see value in looking at technical analysis, or why do you think they might?
Well, just being in the game doesn't make you the smartest person in the room, the longest, you know what I mean? So everything I say doesn't mean it has to be gospel, right? I didn't grow up with technical analysis. So like when I was a trader on the floor, we didn't have any charts, we didn't have any screens, we didn't have any TVs. So like, the outside world got information way before we did. So for me to look at something that happened in the past, it really had nothing to do what was going to happen in the future. I mean, there's a reason why what do those attorneys put on every contract you sign, or everything you look at, past results don't, aren't indicative of future, earnings or winnings or results. So if the smart attorneys put that on there, it's smart enough for me. I don't need it.
I hear you. It's kind of interesting. You said it in the very first part, how you didn't grow up with these charts and things like that. My generation, that's all they grew up with.
Right.
So it kind of blows their mind sometimes when they see that you can navigate yourself around positions without looking at a chart, because they feel blind.
Charts and positions are completely two different things. And I don't know how you can build a position from a chart. Like I can see how you can say, I want to be bullish on this because it's been down here 2 or 3 times and I think it's going to bounce. I can see what you can say, it's been up here 2 or 3 times and I think it's going to sell back off, or I think it's going to break out. We can say the same things because you're looking at a chart and I'm not, and still come to the position. The position is really what matters, not how you got to the different time frames. Every technician uses a different time frame, so they all look at things differently.
I think a better way to put it was, some people can get a directional assumption from technical analysis. Some people get a directional assumption by what the data is telling them, maybe implied volatility, whatever the metrics are. But I'm going to bounce over to you, Jamal. Why do you think some traders might see value in looking at technical analysis, and why do you think some might not? And what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. For me, that's actually kind of how I got started in trading. Before I knew anything about options, all I knew was about stock. And I looked at a lot of technical trading stuff. And to be totally honest with you, what I think it is just greed and fear pockets. I think that's what a lot of these patterns really boil down to. And so, you got so many different things, the cup with handle patterns and a reverse head and shoulders. You got Fibonacci, whatever. I think a lot of it is all the same, to be honest with you. They just use different techniques of getting there. But they're just greed and fear pockets. And so I think they can help you sometimes realize where certain people might be interested in a stock and or index and not. Like currently, the S&P 500 is sitting around 4,000, and you can just see the volume pick up when it moves within 2 to 5% around those areas. So I think it boils down to that really more than anything.
Right here, I have the SPY chart pulled up, and I'm on the daily chart. And if we zoom into last week, you can see we had consecutive red days in the market. We had a pretty aggressive sell-off pretty much all week. And this is how I like to get my directional bias. Similar to Tom, I like to take a contrarian approach. So I went long into the weakness. And what I did was I sold the put spread in SPY. I sold the 380 put and I bought the 375 put. So that's how I like to get my directional bias. And typically I'll go around 45 days till expiration when choosing a contract. I kind of also view technicals as like psychology painted on a chart, whether that's retail traders or algorithms, because who programs the algorithms? We do as humans. And a lot of the times I just feel like the buying and selling that's going on, it was inputted by a human, whether it's an algorithm or not. So somebody's kind of thinking of these things, and it's just kind of hard to wrap your mind around some of these moves in the market.
A good friend of mine who we used to trade with always used to talk about the machines are in control. And you're right. There's a lot of times the machines are being programmed by people who know they're going to be interested at certain level pockets, right? Like in the stock. So it's kind of interesting.
100%. You know, I mean, I have the least experience in the market, and this is just coming from what I've observed. Like, for example, recently on SPY, there was a bull flag formation. A lot of people were posting about it, that congestion kind of building up, waiting to see that break, maybe upwards or downwards. And the way I kind of view technical analysis is a bull flag or a head and shoulders isn't going to let you know what's going to happen next, but it can let you know that decisions are about to be made, but you can't really know what direction that's going to be. And if we're consolidating within a range, it doesn't mean, oh, it's a bull flag, we're breaking out to the upside. It might just say, hey, pay attention, something might happen. That's kind of how I view some of these technical analysis when people are looking at charts and trading by that. But I just think it's interesting how we all kind of get into the market at different times, and whatever's popular, whatever's presented towards us is kind of what we first get into and what we kind of first feel comfortable with. So I remember starting on the Where Do I Start series with Tom, and when he was telling me to put the position on, I was like, what do you mean? I haven't even looked at the chart yet. How do I know, where this is
teacher. So, I mean, you were at a very big discussion.
Right. But now that I'm kind of more on my own, there are some positions where if I kind of know what level or where I'm at on the chart, I don't even need to look at the chart. I can just see by looking at my spreads and how much my spreads are worth if I should take this trade, and it just makes a lot of sense now. So at first it didn't make sense at all, and now I can kind of put on a trade and see and visualize in my mind what the stock is kind of doing based off of looking at the options chain alone. So now I'm going to go into the options chain, and typically I'll choose around 45 days to expiration. But even if you weren't looking at a chart, typically you can just look at your deltas. You can go to around the 20 delta, 30 delta, depending on how aggressive you want to be, without even looking at the chart. And then what you can do is just select the strikes that you want and see if you're collecting enough credit and if the probability of profit is sufficient for you, if you're aggressive enough on the deltas, if you like the max profit, if you like the max loss, and then just make sure it's not taking up too much buying power for your portfolio. I can see where Tony and Tom is coming from, where you technically don't even need a chart. You could just check out the implied volatility, check out the strategy you want to use, and if you're collecting enough credit and you like the probability of profit, you're pretty much good to go.
I'm going to throw something back at you real quick. So everything you said right now really comes down to being comfortable. It's the same thing what Jamal said a moment ago too. Everything comes down to being comfortable. When you first started, you said, hey, I have to look at this chart to see what I'm doing. Now you have enough knowledge and comfort to say, oh, the spread is trading at this price. We're probably here in this range because I have some history watching this product. I'm in the same place. I think Jamal's in the same place. I think we're all in the same place. If you're comfortable with something, and it doesn't matter how you get comfortable, whether it's looking at a chart, looking at an option chain, looking at volatility, looking at your friend who trades, doesn't matter to me. As long as you're comfortable making it, you probably have a higher probability of success of having a good trade on, just because you'll give it time to work, you'll believe in it, and more importantly, you have nobody else to blame but yourself. And if you take that on yourself, then you own it. And if you own it, you'll be successful, because ultimately what we're trying to be is successful people.
I think technical analysis kind of helps give you market awareness of where certain things may be trading. I think that's probably a good tool to use in that regard, but I don't think it's some kind of gospel that you should just sort of put everything on and say, oh, this is going to break out to the upside because it's XYZ pattern. I'm going to put this position on and that's the way it's going to work. I don't think it works that way. I just think it helps you identify how a lot of people might be looking at a similar level in a stock.
God, we're way too friendly on this.
Yeah, we are. I know. I mean, I'm trying to find ways to, be, stop. That's why I say anything crazy.
That's what we're going to roll with this strategy for now. I did get my directional bias by checking out the charts, and then I went to the options chain. That's something that I like to do. but it's 53 days till expiration. I'll manage this trade around 21 days till expiration. But if I'm able to collect 50% of the credit that I received on the trade before 21 days till expiration, I'll go ahead and take the trade off. I'll manage it ahead of time. But until then, we'll see what happens and I'll manage accordingly. If you want to learn a bit more about different valuable chart patterns, check out our video on what every stock market crash has in common.